Welcome back to the Men's Roundtable Series podcast. I'm your host, Mr. U. The Warriors are here. Husbands, fathers, brothers, and sons. Eyes up. We're talking about you guys tonight. How you guys doing over there, guys? Everybody good? Weather-wise, family-wise?
Better than we deserve, brother.
Disasters where you are, we good, right? Got to ask you guys that offline. Everybody's all right? Where you all locally? Weather-wise?
You got it, man.
Weather Channel trying to scare y'all, man. The sky is falling. We're still here. So good, man. Awesome series from last I can't say last month and last week. I'll be honest, man, I'm still reeling from that. In a good way. I'm still hearing so many positive things, man. Even out of my own circle, some positivity coming from the series, man. This series thing is obviously working because it's giving us a chance to really stretch that bad boy out and get all the meat off of that bone, and the viewers seem to be responding to it, man. So how you guys doing in the aftermath of what we talked about last time? Because busy versus busyness is like, it's still in my conversation. I haven't gotten it totally out of my system yet. It's still happening. It's still going on, man. How you guys doing with everything regarding that in the series we did last week?
Still busy, man.
Yeah.
Still super busy, but yeah, man. You know, we went over a lot of really cool stuff. In the last one, I really enjoyed that the different takes we all had on legacy. I thought that was actually really revealing, and it was cool. You know, because I have that old school definition of it. You know, I've got kids that are grown and the whole bit, but just to kind of hear, like, you know, especially DL's, you know, idea of like means nothing, man. it just cut to the quick, you know, and I really thought it was a great, you know, yeah, it was a mic drop. It was an awesome moment. And it was just kind of a really good demonstration of how we have such different views while having so many of the same, you know, values and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd echo that, man. One thing that I could take away from all of that last month and last week is, man, I'm like so aware now of when I'm just being busy, right? You don't realize that, like, until you go through like the conversations that we've had, the conversations that I've listened to when I wasn't on, like, I was not aware how often in my days that I'm just being busy, right? When I could be productive, when I could be getting down to real business. So I'm just really blessed by that. And I echo what Rory said about, you know, the differing perspectives. Like, that's huge, right? Because we're all men. We're all in this world. We're all striving towards the same goal, and our perspectives are different. And I love that we don't ever get into it like that. You know what I mean? Like, we can have differing perspectives, and we're not at each other's throats about it, you know? And I think that's what a safe space for a valuable conversation that's supposed to look like. So.
Yeah. Can we get a penalty on the play for him calling it a safe space? Just.
I mean, I don't know why. I told you that's what it was from day point one. I told you that's what we're going to be. So I don't know why are you putting a flag on the play? It's right. It is.
He's just trying to start something. That's what he's doing.
That's exactly what it is. I think that last part of what he said is what people seem to. I feel like people have been hinting around it, but not. It's like there's something special about this, but I can't put my finger on what it is. That kind of vibe. You guys have been hearing that. That's kind of what I've been hearing on my end, and I think that might be what it is that they see. We have different opinions, and we still love each other. We still go pick up the phone and call each other. That checks out. How you doing? Checking on you and the family. It still happens, no matter how heated the conversations and the disputes get. I think that's rare. I hear podcasts of guys cursing each other out. I'm like, this is not what I want to do. So this is good. So DL, hit it, man. Anybody disagree with that? If you do, you cancel. Just kidding.
And that's one of my biggest pet peeves, like, period, in conversations, is we have become a society that people think we actually have to share the same opinion. The best conversations happen when everybody has different opinions. I don't know why you in the podcast space if you're not cool with disagreeing with other people.
Yeah.
I can think one thing, you can think another. It doesn't mean I respect you less. It doesn't mean I like you less. It means we don't see eye to eye on something, and that is okay.
Yeah.
We need to get back to that. It's respectful discourse, man. It used to be the foundation of everything we did.
Used to be.
Yeah.
Used to be. I don't know where it went. Anybody else want to chime in on the recent series and how it impacted you? If it impacted you. If you didn't feel nothing, don't say nothing.
Well, you know, the impact for me was really learning to be still and how to embrace the quiet. You know, a lot of times we want to run from the quiet and we always got to pick up and do something, but it means a lot just to be still. You get a lot of answers in the silence. You get a lot of direction in the silence. So that was the biggest thing for me, to hear how you guys have dealt with it and are dealing with it. It gave me some cues, you know, what to look for and what I should be doing in certain situations. I don't always have to, you know, try to figure it out, you know. So that was the biggest takeaway for me, was embrace the silence.
That's good.
I love that we can help each other, man. I feel like we can't do that. I mean, what are we doing exactly? Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense, man. Anybody else before we go ahead and move into the topic for today? We're not in a rush, man. So
I was listening this week. I was not able to climb in here and throw some blows like everybody else was, but I will tell you with 100% certainty and honesty that as DL mentioned, I started questioning every time I was busy because of y'all talking about this. I'm not kidding. I was because I've been busy. We're getting ready for moving. We got work. We got all these different things. And several times I had a couple of your faces that was kind of annoying, but it was there because I was doing something and I felt busy and realized I was doing something completely irrelevant. And it came down to the point that DL made. It was like, I can stay busy. We can get really busy and go absolutely nowhere. And you all checked me on that. I wasn't in here, but I was in the comments listening and throwing some shade. But it was really good to be able to do that because it allowed me to check myself in this busy season of our lives, to be able to refocus and then go find something to actually be busy about and make it matter, as opposed to kind of hiding and getting on my phone. Oh, I need to do some social media for the podcast. Like, no, I don't need to do that right now. Like, I got a bunch of other things going on that I need to focus on. So that was really helpful. And I can't imagine that anybody else who listened wasn't also checking themselves on it. So wanted to throw that out.
Thank you, OP. That's awesome, man. Anybody else before we cut away?
Well, if we say it all, I'll throw it out there. Like, I have become utterly aware. Like, I've always tried to be somewhat aware, but with every email, every text, every time I pick up my phone, like it has become just a forefront awareness. Is like, is this actually valuable? Am I doing something valuable? What am I actually doing right here? Does this help? Right? Picking up my phone. Nope, that's not. Is that a work post? No, that can go. I don't actually need to flip through Instagram. Is that I'm every email, like I see emails come through and it's like, I don't need to respond to that. I need to respond to that. That's not taking me any closer to the direction I'm going. That's not accomplishing anything for my family. I don't need to reply to that. I've gotten really forefront of the mind, just scrutinizing all the choices. Is like, is this the best way I'm spending my hours today? Like, is this actually moving the agenda forward? What I'm doing in my business, what I'm doing as a husband, as a father, is this actually moving me in a direction, or am I just treading water?
Yeah, I think it feels really good, man, to kind of check out, because we talked about it so many times, man. We can get caught up with stuff, not just men, really. It can really be men and women. We get caught up with stuff. We go through a day and we accumulate things to do. We accumulate little things that become projects you take these little seeds and they turn into big trees in our life, and we just carry it around. Be like, man, get to the end of the month, like, how did I get here? It was in that 24 hours, in that 24-hour period. That's how it happened. It wasn't the 30 days. It wasn't the 12 months. It was the 24-hour periods. So we grab stuff and accumulate stuff all the time, man. So I love that, man. It's good to be hypersensitive about what we allow in our space. It's about keeping boundaries. Did we discuss that last week too? Wasn't boundaries part of our topic last week or week before? Yeah. Staying kind of premise. Anybody else? And we keep moving. Yeah. So this month, somebody had to remind me. I didn't know that. So my badness when this month is Mental Health Month. I was not aware of that. But when we're talking about men, I think we did this since last summer when we first launched this series. We know that men deal with mental health issues, and they probably, this is a general statement, saying we have a bigger challenge with dealing with that because that means admitting that we've been struggling with something, admitting that we're weak in a specific area, and then having to be enough community to trust somebody with what we're dealing with. So a 3-point challenge for us when it comes to mental health. So this is a good month and a good opportunity to kind of kick it in a high gear. And we were talking offline about the emotional silence tax. This is gonna be hot like fish grease tonight. I think about 3 areas when I think about the emotional silence tax and people suffering in silence. You guys can share your thoughts so we can get into the topic. I think about high-level executive leadership. I was in a somewhat high level of leadership with the government, and I realized how small. Just imagine that triangle that they always use for business models. You notice how it's wider at the bottom, where there's more room at the bottom than at the top. It's not gang signs. I ain't with the Illuminati. I'm just showing you a triangle, right? up at the top, you see how narrow it is? That's because there's not a lot of room for the kind of community that those people really need at that level. It's only like when they say it's lonely at the top, that's because it's narrow up there. Ain't a whole lot of room. And I found that out the hard way. I'm like, wow, I don't have people I can talk to about what I'm dealing with in this doggone job. I didn't have 3 places to go. So high level executive leadership, I think about stepfathers, which is I am technically one of those. Father of a blended family of 3 incredible adult daughters right now, 6 grandchildren, 3 great grandchildren. That was an unsafe place for me because there was nowhere for me to go. We didn't have a stepfathers group or club. We didn't have a stepfathers podcast. None of that stuff was even in existence. So I was holding it in myself like, man, all these guys are natural fathers. They understand, but they don't totally get my specific situation. And then religious leaders, also, I'm one of those as well. You're expected to just trust God, have faith, and sometimes there's not room for you to kind of talk about what you're really dealing with and be really transparent about it without kind of being judged like, maybe you should stop sinning so much. Maybe you won't have these problems. You don't want to hear that kind of stuff when you're going through something. So those are the 3 things that come to mind for me when it comes to suffering in silence. When you hear emotional silence tax, what comes to mind? And you guys in the comment section, drop it in the chat. If you hear anything that comes to mind that's pertinent, drop it in the comment section. But when you guys hear emotional silence tax or suffering in silence, what's coming to mind right away? What are you thinking? What are you hearing?
Shoot, okay. We're not going to do the long silence thing. I was suffering there, just so you guys know. I was suffering with that silence.
Me
too. You hit on one of them, and we talked about this offline, right? Religious leaders, pastors specifically. I think of leaders in general, right? Because if you're a mess, if you're a wreck, how can you expect people to follow you, right? And then I think of people that are like in addiction, right? Shunned by people, right? You're in addiction. You're doing that to numb pain, to avoid trauma, things like that. And then on top of that, there's this social stigma that you're less than because you're doing drugs, or and then I think about I'm thinking about me when I think about all these different things, right? And the third part is the incarcerated, the formerly incarcerated, another demographic of people who are thought to be tough guys in some way, shape, or form, right? But are also outcasted by society in a lot of ways, right? So they don't feel as though they have that support. I know I didn't. I didn't feel like I had that kind of support outside of, my close family who loved me unconditionally, right? But even there, I still felt like there was this layer of judgment. Like, I got two brothers. Neither one of them are like went any way that I went, right? My older brother always, dude, we were raised in the same house by the same parents. Why are you so different? Right? My kid brother is a pastor from high school, went on seminary, all of that, like went directly for God, graduated from high school. So it's like complete opposite ends of a spectrum. And so there was a lot of that suffering in silence, because you don't know if you have that shoulder to cry on. You don't know if you have that understanding or listening ear. Gosh, if I hadn't have found God, man, I'd probably still feel that way. But now I know I at least got one ear that'll listen to me. One ear one set of eyes that will see me,
Heard that. Thank you, Dale, man. Good stuff, man. Thanks for sharing that, brother. Anybody else?
I'll jump in there. Yeah, okay, I'll jump in there. Stop the suffering for everybody. I love what you guys are saying, but I got to be honest. I think that every father and husband deals with this. I think it's something that every single father and husband takes on when you become a father or a husband, because there's a certain amount of having to suffer in silence that you simply take on when you take on that role. I've said some of this stuff before, but I'll double down on it. Your wife doesn't want to hear about how you don't think you can make it. Your wife doesn't want to hear about how you're overwhelmed and you don't think you can pay the bills this month. She wants you to take care of it. Your kids don't want to hear about, oh, we may not be able to eat next week. They expect you to go give blood and cash the check and go buy groceries and go home with food. So there's an awful lot of that goes on that we end up. I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm not saying that, we shouldn't talk or anything, but I'm saying that's the reality of the situation. And I think that as soon as you become a father or a husband, you absolutely are signing up for that kind of thing.
Thank you, sir.
I have to throw some stuff in there as well with Rory, and I agree with it to most extent, actually, because I want to be the rock in the family, period. Dot. Right. I'm a father of daughters. I want them to see me be able to do that. For right or wrong, I don't expect them to go and mother another boy to come in their lives because they can't handle their stuff. So that's a point, right? I think it's important to realize that there's many different ways to not suffer in silence while still being silent. I found this to be very true in the podcasting world, particularly talking about raising daughters, which is what I do, right? But really about growing as men, right? And one thing I found, and again, people can throw shade all they want, but the reality is a reality. A lot of men won't go ask for help, or we'll go search for it. We won't go ask for it. I won't go and call Yusuf and say, hey, man, I need help. Maybe at this point I will, because I've learned a lot and I've had these perspectives. But I know a lot of men that will not do that. I also know those same men to go look for the answers.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's not necessarily suffering in silence. They're just staying silent and they're finding the answers, right? And what we're doing here is giving men answers without having to ask for them. They're going to go and find this. And so, this is really kind of a cool conversation, because as we talk about Mental Health Month and June starting, I believe that's Men's Mental Health Month, which again, I'm not necessarily a protagonist for the month of mental health. Like I think we should just figure this thing out as we go. But nevertheless, let's use it, right? We're here. I think it's important to realize that we as a society lately, we want to be like, oh, you have mental health issues, you have to talk about it. Really, let's talk as men and realize we don't necessarily have to talk about it. We just have to be able to go find the information or help another dude go find the information. Right. I'm a big proponent to just figuring it out. I will say, however, that there gets to the point where when I cannot figure it out, and then I get in my head and I get so stuck that I'm not going to figure it out with other people, and then it starts affecting my home. Now we get a problem. And that's where we need the awareness to say, okay, now I got to call Yusuf, because now I've done all my homework. I can't figure this out. And I know someone else has done it. And that's where we need to figure out how to drop the ego and then go ask for the help. And again, that could be right or wrong. Whoever's listening, let us hear it. But I really think that there's different ways to being silent, and it doesn't have to be suffering. We can still find answers. And nowadays, there's answers out there. Every single one of you that I know has a voice in this sphere. And I know everybody's throwing stuff out there so that people can get it and start using it. So the information is out there. Maybe they're not going to ask for it, but guys, I'm seeing it in the numbers. Someone's going over and downloading my show. Someone's going to listen. They're listening. They're looking for information, and I just am glad to be that one of those voices that can give them the information, even if they don't want to ask me for it. I'm here. If you guys want to ask for information, I'm here. But I also know that I'm one of those knuckleheads that probably won't ask until I do my homework and figure out if I can find the answer.
I respect you, brother, and I don't think you're a knucklehead. I've already talked to you about the knucklehead and the knuckle dragger comments that you use against yourself. I already told you I ain't down with that. That's not you. Okay.
Oh, they're not against me. They're for me.
I disagree. But either way, see, we disagree and still love each other. We're still gonna call and text each other. It's still gonna happen. But I'm not against the idea of trying to figure some stuff out before you make the call. I don't think that's a bad thing. The people who figure stuff out and then they just give up and just quit and never make the call, that's where the problem is. I have one of my youngest daughter ain't gonna watch the show probably. If she does, she'll learn something today. She used to have a big problem with math, right? And she would get frustrated and she would call me into the room to ask her to help out with her math. Fathers do that. Not a big deal, right? But my first question is, so what did you do so far?
Right. Absolutely.
If you guys call me, I'm going to ask the same question in a different way. So what's happened so far? Before we get to the part where you start getting help, what did you do? If you say nothing, I'm going to shift the conversation just a little bit so we can talk about why nothing happened before you call me. Not that I'm too busy and I ain't got time. You can call me at 3 o'clock. I will get up if I hear that phone. That's a caveat. If I hear the phone, I'm going to get up. Simply. But I will ask you, so what's happened so far? You sound frustrated. Sounds like you've been on a long road. What have you done so far? Ain't nothing wrong with that, but I just feel like we got to decide how far we're going to go before we call. And is there a reason why we got to take a really, really long road before we call somebody for help? That's a whole separate topic. If you're trying to avoid doing that, that's a pride problem, and that's not a manhood, fatherhood problem, independence problem. Now you got a pride issue, and pride goes before destruction. The Bible teaches us, so that's different. So you get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? We're on the same page with that?
Absolutely. I don't know that they're fully separate problems. And I think, and I'll say that this way. I think we could all agree that we want to pathologize everything. Right? Everything is a mental health issue. But
that's the word of the day. Pathologize.
Pathologize.
That's the word of the day.
Hey, knuckle draggers gotta get smart too, you know.
Here we go. Here we go, man. Have you been listening to me, brother? Go ahead, keep going.
But if we make it sound like every little hard thing is gonna put you in, on the edge, and I say that because even as a veteran, I'm still active duty, but I deal a lot with the veteran community. When we have these conversations, sometimes like, dude, you're okay. Like, it doesn't mean that you're broken because the doc said that you're broken. Like, that's not how this works. And we seem to want to pathologize everything and make it sound like everything's breaking you down. So you must be weak now. So you got to go talk to someone. So it's like, that's not necessarily the case. And I know that that's what we're seeing. The degeneralization of men, if you will. I don't know. I don't know. That's an actual nomenclature to that. But what I'm saying is it's not fully disconnected to what you're saying. I completely agree that we have to help each other be aware of the moment that we did try, that crap is getting hard, and that we need to go get the help. If not for us, for the people that we're doing it for, 100%. And I have gone to seek help for those specific reasons, because it gets to the point where I can see it affecting a realm outside of just me. And that's the big factor, right? And again, because of maybe the growth, maybe the perspectives that you guys were talking about, I've gotten to the point where I can legitimately just push the ego aside, be like, I need to go VFR direct to any of these guys and say, hey, I know you've been doing this. I need your help. Like I've gotten to the point where I don't have any more answers, but I know that you probably do. I know Rory and I were kind of talking earlier yesterday or something through Messenger. Like, I know the help that he has, and I can't wait to get it, but I just can't get it yet. Right. But what I'm saying is, it's like, we know that it's there and we need to know when to get to it. But it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to feel like every little thing we have, is going to break us and we got to go get help for these things. Why not start working towards being the rock? Why not start working towards taking some of this on and not suffering in silence, but trying to figure it out and gaining some of that wisdom as we do it. So that's all I'm saying. Is that it's more interconnected than we want to say, but we just have to figure out how to do that as men.
Okay.
All right. I got to jump in here. I got to jump in here now, because I think we're actually getting hooked on the wrong idea. The topic was the emotional silence tax, right? But we hooked on to this idea of suffering in silence, and it's not necessarily the same thing, right? Men actually thrive and grow when they suffer in silence. There is such thing as healthy suffering. In fact, there's a lot of healthy suffering. And I can tell you right off the top of my head, the gym is the perfect example, right? We go to work out and be healthier, but we also go to work shit out, right? That's where we face a lot of our demons for some of us. But that is...
This show was rated E.
That is choosing to suffer, right? You can hear that on the Friday night television, bro.
Keep going, man. Keep going.
Choosing.
Don't mind me. I'm just the host.
Embrace suffering. That is choosing to hurt, right? Because men achieve greatness in times of difficulty and suffering. Not all suffering is bad. And we've hooked onto this idea of negative suffering. There is an emotional cost to being silent. There is an emotional cost to not going to somebody when you're actually in a real struggle. And Oscar's 100% right, because we want to, like, every little hardship, we want to be like, oh my goodness, and put some big label on it. Life is hard. That's a fact. Reality is hard. Anybody who says otherwise is selling you something. Life is not meant to be easy. It doesn't, and it hasn't been easy since the beginning of time. And there's nothing wrong with things being difficult. Dieting is difficult. Working out, difficult, right? There's nothing wrong with difficult. And we've gotten to where we've gotten so soft as a society that we're like, oh my goodness, this is hard, or it makes me uncomfortable. And all of a sudden it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, right? In Tough Mudder, they say, embrace the suffering, try something new, suck at something new for the first time today, right?
Embrace the suck.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, suck at something new for the first time today, right? Challenge yourself with something new and difficult and hard that you're not good at it today, because that is where you grow and develop. All humans, but especially men, thrive under suffering. We got to worry about with the emotional tax is like when your friend, so I was just in a conversation today. My best friend lost his job after 20 years. He's worked for the same company for 20 years in one form or another. And he's now on 2 months of unemployment at 50 years old. And it's the first time in his life he's ever been on unemployment. And he is struggling. And he has nobody around him because he moved because he needed a new change of scene after his dad passed away a couple of years ago. So he moved to a new place. He's got nobody around him. He's got no family around him. And he is struggling. He told me today, he's like, I asked God, is like, why do I got to keep living if this is what life is like?
Oh, wow.
Right? He is suffering. That is the emotional cost of silence, because he's not suffering in a positive way. He has been quiet as he has gone through struggle. And now it's beyond suffering. It's now actually we're into a depressive, dangerous state where we're actually facing real issues, right? That is emotional silence. That is when we hold on for something so long that it actually starts to give a clinical issue for ourselves. And that is what we've got to watch. Suffering's fine. One of my favorite YouTubers has a shirt that says "Suffer Beautifully." He trains competitive athletes in the Special Olympics in strongman training. He has a shirt called "Suffer Beautifully." He did a whole video on it. It's like everybody has a problem. The only thing you control is how you handle it. So choose to suffer beautifully, to thrive, right? You can choose what your suffering looks like. It's when it moves past and develops into real problems where we're actually now facing clinical issues because we haven't talked to a friend or a brother. We haven't connected with somebody at an emotional level and said, man, life's hard today. And I'm really feeling it. And you don't have to have a great answer. You can just say, yo, I got you, man. Life can really trash you sometimes, and just be there with them. You don't have to talk it out. You don't have to have the clinical answer, but that is the difference. When you get to that point and you're actually experiencing real complications, real issues, it's affecting your sleep. It's impacting your health. It's impacting the way you look at life itself. And if life is worthwhile, that is the cost of emotional silence.
Appreciate the clarification, brother. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in right here with Brent because I agree with him. Everyone makes interesting points, but to piggyback off Brent here, we are to suffer well. So there's peace in the suffering, and not only that, in the suffering, you look at Romans 5, it tells us that we produce endurance, that produces character, and then that produces hope. So sometimes that only comes through the suffering. We are to join in suffering with Christ. So suffering is not necessarily a bad thing. And also with the mental health thing, there's also a bad stigma when we hear the word mental health. But mental health is just like going to the gym. You build your mind, you build your soul the same way you build your body. So when we're talking about mental health, it's not that it's an excuse for everything or you're putting a label on everything, but sometimes you can take a step back and you understand how you wire, you understand how you think. And once you do that, then you can see where the problem is, you can see where the mental block is, and you have a clear path how to get over it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. And when you hear mental health or talking to somebody, we put such a negative stigma on it. And that's not what all mental health is about. Like I said, it's just like going to the gym, just like eating right. You eat right. You got to think right. You think right. You do right. So that's all mental health there. So.
Yeah, right. Anybody else?
Now, I want to clarify too that I saw the message here. You cannot be a rock if you're crumbling inside. 100% agree. And what Brent, I think, what he said was key was that when you start noticing these factors that mess with your sleep, mess with your thinking, mess with the way that your sphere is being affected, that is your family, your kids, your work, all those things, we need to absolutely seek help. Absolutely. I just don't think that everything, it's like I hear my daughter and some of her friends talk sometimes and they're like, oh, that was so traumatic. That was so traumatic. I'm like, not everything is trauma, guys. Like there's real trauma in the world. And what you're telling me right now is not trauma. This is just regular, teenage life. Like that's not trauma. Right now, I can give you some stories of some messed up trauma at these stages if you like, but that's not what that is. And so that's what I'm talking about. I am 100% with it. Like I mentioned it, maybe I wasn't clear. I went to go seek mental help because I needed it, because I got to the point where I knew that it was affecting way more than just having a hard time trying to figure something out, right? So please, by all means, seek the help that you need. What I'm saying, and probably with RL here, we are to suffer well. We can do that. Not everything is trauma. Things are hard sometimes, and let's just get through it. And then there's a point where we need to go and get some help, and we should absolutely.
Yeah. When it comes to just the original premise for this, we're talking about the emotional silence tax. You know, the whole suffering and silence idea, you know, part of that is a mindset, and some of it is a matter of opinion. It's a perspective of some people. It's not everybody. It's not every situation. Those three that I named, those are areas that were perspectives. I happen to embody all three of them. It was a mere coincidence, not planned whatsoever. And, you know, I looked at things the way I did. I had an opinion about how he saw that. And then RL shared his, and Brent shared his, we kind of moved on from there. But one of the things that we've been very consistent on this show talking about is the whole idea of men being conditioned early in a lot of places to not be emotionally expressive. And what that looks like, it looks like weakness to the outside world. It looks like instability or loss of control when you express yourself emotionally. What Rory said is spot on about, you know, there's certain things that our family, we're all under the sharing tree, but there's just certain things that it's going to be really hard to explain. So probably not even try to even express ourselves in that way openly. Like we talked about several weeks ago, somebody openly weeping at the supermarket and just falling out of the supermarket. It's really hard to explain why that's happening. You know what I'm saying? So one of the myths I want to make sure that we don't overlook here is that men can be emotionally expressive. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean that the man is weak. It doesn't mean that the man is less than what God created. It doesn't mean that the man doesn't even have control. No, this is a conditioning that, you know, forces us to push all that stuff underground. It doesn't get better down there. It just festers down there and comes out another way. Then you wonder why we got mass shootings and things of that nature. Some of the reasons why is because emotionally people have not been able to express themselves. They've held it in, and they've got to the point where, like any pressure is held in. Look at a pressure cooker. You pull that top off before it's time, you better get back. It's going to be a big boom, you know, because it's the pressure is rising in this building. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that in the human person too. So I don't want us to get lost in what this is supposed to be about. This is about the emotional silence tax. What does that mean to us? Let's kind of restart and kind of go from there. What does that mean to you when you hear emotional silence tax? As soon as you guys heard the title, everybody had a reaction that I can physically see. Some leaned back in their chair. Some said, ooh, took a deep breath. Emotional silence tax. What does that say to you?
Well, for me, with emotional silence tax, you hit it right on the head. It's about that pressure that builds up, especially as men, because if we're being honest, most of us, there are a few exceptions, but most of us have never had an example of what a man is or how a man is supposed to express emotions. We know two extremes. We know happy, we know anger. And that's the only extremes we know. You know, and that's the only extremes that have been, displayed before us. So we're grasping at straws, and we're all trying to figure this thing out. And then you have the world telling you what a man is supposed to be and what a man is and isn't. You have some women out there, when you're looking on social media, which you can't really look at it because it will infuriate you. And you're just like, where are you getting these things from? Like, one of the things said, I even take it to church. There was this post that just went off where she was with her date or whatever. And this man started praising God, and he started crying, and she left and said that was sassy. No man should be crying in church or praising like that. Leave that to women. So these are the things these are the things that we're hearing, right?
Oh,
So,
wow.
and then as a man, a lot of times your voice carries weight too. So being that we don't necessarily know how to express these things, we hold these things in, because if I say this, then I run the risk of hurting my loved one, because they're not going to receive it the way I actually meant it. It's not going to come out right. So I hold it and I suppress it because I don't want to hurt them. And then, like Brent was saying earlier, might have been Rory, where most of the times your loved ones don't want to see you fall apart. You have to hold it together, because the last thing you want to do is fall apart and then they begin to resent you. You know, and it's unspoken, but we all feel that way. There's certain things, like me and my wife have the greatest relationship, and I can tell her anything. But I'm also very mindful of how I tell her. You know, it's not that I don't express it, but I have to be mindful of how I express it. And that might not even be the case, but that's the way I feel. And I would think most men feel that way.
It's called unprocessed emotions or processed emotions. It's unprocessed. It comes out in ways that are not good. Like we talked about earlier, anger, control, extreme sarcasm, numbness, you name it. So good stuff, Mario. Thanks for sharing that, brother. Anybody want to jump in on the topic, emotional silence tax? Go ahead.
Absolutely.
I got you here. The emotional silence tax, and I'll sum it up quickly. My reaction. This is the explanation of the loneliness epidemic for men. That is the emotional silence tax that men pay, is emotional and mental loneliness and isolation. That is why so many men feel, and the numbers are, I track this stuff. The numbers are absurd. The amount of men who feel lonely in a crowded room surrounded by friends and loved ones is 70+%. The emotional silence tax
is that low.
We don't process it or whatever. We keep our mouth shut, and it isolates us and makes us feel alone no matter who we're around.
I'm surprised the number's that low, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I thought it was so much higher.
From the very beginning, we were always told to suck it up. You know, suck it up.
Suck it up, Buttercup. You know, the word that sticks out to me as you've done this reset, right, is tax, right? And I think the thing that comes to mind is counting the cost, right? What is that cost? And, you know, you hear stories about people who, you know, small little cut, right? Not treated properly. They died. Right. And you talked about the festering wound. And I think about that when I'm looking at this, the emotional silence tax, right? And so you're wounded on the inside, right? But you don't know how to express that. You don't have the proper community around you to walk with you through that, right? And what happens? It becomes infected, right? It festers and it becomes worse. And then it begins to express itself outwardly in the ways that everyone has hit on here, right? Rage, control, right? Sarcasm, all these different things. And ultimately, the tax is death. In some way, shape, or form, the tax is death, right? Whether it's spiritual death, sometimes it can be physical death, right? You hear of stories about people who have died from broken hearts, right?
Yeah.
Like that's very real. You know, I think about, I'll share a piece of my story, right?
Go for it.
I was seconds away from pulling the trigger on myself because I didn't know if I had anyone to go to, right? I didn't want to be a burden to people, right? Like I didn't know how to express these things because like RL said, I was a professional at expressing two things, happiness or rage. I didn't know how to do anything in between there. I was not emotionally intelligent, I guess that's the term, right? Enough to acknowledge what I was feeling, right? And I was seconds away, and I'm talking about committed, You know, when you're about to white knuckle it and you're going to power through it, that's where I was mentally from the emotional silence tax, right? And seconds away from taking my own life. But this is the greater grace that we're given, right? God saw fit to have a message come through to my phone, and it was an invitation for me to go to a prayer room and learn how to talk to God. And I'll tell you what, I don't know why. I can only explain this as God. That's how good God is, bro. I don't even know why I looked at my phone. My phone was across the room and the gun was in my hand. But I paused and I looked at that thing. And that's the only reason I'm here, right? But I can tell you that there is a listener out there who is experiencing one of those elements and feeling that tax. And if you are listening to this, you got people here, man. You got a God up there. You got these men right here on this panel who are willing to share and have shared amazing practical tips on how to do these things, right? And I just want to encourage anyone who's out there who is listening to this and or watching this, man. You got so much life to live, so much value. That tax ain't worth it.
And the thing about that tax, man, people just think about the man, and that's fine. But I really feel like everybody in the house pays. It's not just the man, everybody pays. Because there's certain things that your family needs from you. And we can try to get away from the E words and say, oh, we're not emotive. Okay, you can say that, but there's a certain thing that you give from an emotional standpoint. Maybe you don't think about it because it's so natural to you. So when you shut down emotionally, period, everybody pays. You pay, maybe the highest price, but everybody pays. Your daughter who looks at you as the kind of man she wants to marry, she pays. Your son, the kind of man that he wants to be like when he grows up, he pays. The wife, who you said, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, through sickness and health, till what? Death do you part. She pays too. How do you guys typically recognize if you're emotionally overloaded or not? When we get to the silence place, there's usually a pile up, if you will. How do you guys recognize when you're kind of going into emotional overload? What kind of indicators do you guys see normally in your own lives?
Well, for me, I get easily irritated. Like the smallest thing irritates me, and I know I need to take a step back. You know, woosah, if you will, because you know, when I get annoyed, like the smallest thing, it makes me just ready to blow up, and I know that the next thing that comes out of my mouth is not going to be well. Actually, it happened to me today. It was from work, actually. My boss sent me an email about some samples that we have been waiting on, and they finally arrived today. And now I have 1 day left to do them. And now the pressure's on me to get the job done when they didn't arrive when they were supposed to. And it was the tone in the email, or what I perceived. And I started to reply. And my wife was like, "You're not able to reply tactfully." And I was like, I need to wait. I need to chill. And I knew that at that point, it was just too much because I got a lot going on right now as far as ministry, stuff at home, stuff that my mom is going through. And I realized at that point, you're making something big. You're making a mountain out of an anthill. So when I feel easily irritated, I know I need to take a step back.
I attribute it to what DL said. I actually just rang in my head as he kept saying it. There's a tax and then there's a debt. And they're they're very different from each other. And I'm not one to go verbatim, but I believe Jesus said, give Caesar what is his, and that's the tax, right? I want to pay that tax. That man tax in the house, like I want to pay that. It's the debt. When I start getting into that debt where it's like you were just talking about, I start getting short. I start to really see that something is just not jiving, like any little thing. Like let's be honest, guys. When a 5-year-old pisses you off, you know there's a problem because there's really nothing they can do that should make you, as a grown man, pissed off. They're just being 5, right? But I've noticed that when I get to the point where I'm getting mad at the 5-year-old, legitimately mad, I'm like, all right, now I haven't paid this debt. There's this debt there. I haven't paid it. Whether it's because I haven't gotten into the word, I haven't talked to my wife about it, I haven't maybe talked to other dudes about it. That's when I know there's a problem. And the tax itself, that's got to get paid, right? The tax man comes around. That's the one thing I think is the only thing other than death that is gonna happen. Taxes and death, right? Like I'll pay that tax. It's the debt that starts to create because I haven't taken care of those things. And that's when I start seeing that I need to go and really adjust.
Yeah. For the next person jumps in, just want to thank my brother for putting this out here for us. Hopefully you can remind us to keep doing this every single week that we do the show. But on your screen for you guys that are watching, if you're listening, just listen to the sound of my voice. I know it's very soothing. Listen to the sound of my voice. It says 988 is the nationwide emergency mental health hotline number in the U.S. You can call, text, or chat online at 988lifeline.org for 24/7 support. So 988, or you can chat online or call at 988lifeline.org. All right, guys, you go ahead and jump back in. Sorry.
I run out of creative energy. That's what I know. That I like a lot of us work in a very creative industry, right? Most of us are podcasters for at least part of our living, if not all of it. But we work in a very creative industry, right? I have my business and my other shows, and I'm generally a very creative person. Is probably how I ended up in the industry. But I know when I just start staring, like when have a mental load, I know it's like I got this to do and this to do and this to do this, right? My punch list is never empty. When I start staring at my computer and letting myself like drift through shorts or YouTube videos, and I'm like, oh, I got to do this. And like an hour later, I still haven't got anything done. Right. I know it's time for me to push away from my computer and go sit with my daughters or go outside and sit on the trampoline with them and the dog and just laugh and watch them play, or go have a cigar or go do something. I need to walk away and mentally regroup, because the minute I start to actually really feel that emotional overload where I'm getting into that bad zone, the creativity just ends. Like I might as well just stare at a brick wall.
I feel you. Go ahead, Rory.
All right. Before I get rolling, there is another comment we want to get out there too. On my show, Power of Man, we talk about veterans all the time, and we work with these guys a lot. And the veteran crisis line is for you guys who can't see it. Just listen to my voice here real quick. It's call 1-800-273-8255. Press 1 or text 838-255. Okay. So, check that out. It's going to be in our show notes. I'm sure it's in our comments and everything else, but, veterans, especially you guys, if you're feeling it, man, don't wait. Don't wait until it becomes an issue in a moment. For me, the same thing. I've always handled it differently. And I've noticed that in different phases of my life, that sort of emotional overwhelm has taken a lot of different forms. When I was younger, it would make me angry. When I was sort of middle-aged, it would, make me kind of rage, inside. And I felt like I needed to punch something or let it out. And what's really funny is that now that I'm a little bit older, I find like things start to shut down. So if I'm in that emotional overwhelm, it'll be like my body tries to put itself to sleep, or something ridiculous. I'll be just sitting there and I'll be all of a sudden like, wanting to fall asleep because there's too much in there. And one way or another, your body is going to react to the emotion. Your body's going to react to the stress, and it's going to make you stop for a minute and deal with the problem. And so it's been really kind of funny for me the last few years that If I start to feel really tired for some reason, and I mean sleepy tired, like I want to go to sleep, not I'm exhausted and I want to like lay down, but just sleepy. It's really, really weird. And most of you guys know I don't sleep. So, that's I sleep a couple hours a night. So if I'm sitting here falling asleep and my brain's, my head's going, hey, close your eyes. That's my indication. Look, something's wrong. There's a problem. You're not dealing with something. You're stuffing something. You're keeping something to yourself that you need to get out. And it makes me kind of stop, pull back, and deal with it.
Yeah.
Mental exhaustion is a real thing. I could be physically exhausted and still not go to sleep, but mental exhaustion is exhausting, and I could very much relate to randomly being more tired and sleepy than not, especially when I'm physically tired.
Yeah.
That's good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think for me, it's when I feel myself and I find myself tempted to isolate. There's one thing in taking solace and restful solitude, but when I don't want to deal with anybody, right? Like I have some days when I'm overloaded and overwhelmed, right? Sunday services at the end when there's an altar call, right? I'm part of the prayer team, so I'm supposed to be joyfully going up front, ready to intercede for folks. When I feel that inkling to go to the bathroom, when I know they're about to call people up, that's when I know that I'm burnt out.
Yeah. Good sign. It's a good sign.
I'm just whooped. I don't want to talk to anybody, right? And the other indicator is exactly what RL said, man. When I'm short with people, and on what Oscar hit on, I was cracking up with that, man. When I feel like I want to put hands on a child, like for no reason, like, and don't get, it's just anger. Like, let me make sure I saw your face, you, not like that. But
no,
when I'm
with you. We're here. It's not that.
When
we're
I'm
here.
frustrated with kids, like just being kids, right? And I'm like, and I have no patience for them. That's when I know.
Yeah.
Right? When all of the fruits of the spirit that are usually present just are gone, I'm doing too much.
Oh boy. Yeah.
My wife will literally check me. She'll say, that they're just being kids. And then that's the click. I'm like, oh, okay. Got it.
You needed her help with that one, huh, Oscar?
All the time, brother. Like all the time. She'll sometimes throw things at me across the room. Like, what? And then like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh, wow.
Not in that manner. She just, a pillow or something. I don't know.
Somebody sleeping on the couch.
I don't know.
Somebody's sleeping on the couch tonight, man. This guy.
No bruises.
No bruises. I'm good. I'm telling you.
I wasn't even thinking of the heavy weighted, but you put it out there. But that's kind of on you, man. But,
she's got to check me sometimes,
Nah, bro. I mean, you guys taking care of each other, man, and I love you guys both for that, man. That's a good thing. All right, so we're coming close to the end of tonight. We got a little bit more time, so we can dance a little bit further on this. I don't know what you guys thinking right now. I know that this was a bit of a different spin for us. We kind of took a little turn. I don't even know what to call it. What happened tonight, but it was good though. It was really good, man. I mean, you guys feel like you got a handle on the whole silent thing. I know one thing that RL said from our last series, his summary was really good, man. We talked about how a lot of times we're afraid of the silence, the quiet. I mean, I used to be like that. I have to turn some music on. I'm like, it's too quiet in here. I'm hearing things I don't want to hear. Or imagining sounds that's not really happening. I'm like, I need to put some music on, like quick. But we were often afraid of the silence because the silence is where we grow the most a lot of the times. Just like that seed in the ground in your garden back there. It doesn't grow in the sunlight the most. It grows in the dark the most. It's obscure. You can't see it. Nobody cares you're down there. You're just down there doing your germination thing. And then you grow. Before you know it, boom, it sprouts. And you got fruit. And it's awesome. But we grow a lot in the silence, man. How you guys feel about, just overall, how you guys feel about the whole idea of kind of facing off against the silence and being good with it? Not having to say something, not having to get your point across, not having to assert yourself in situations and in relationships, but be good with the fact, you know what? Sometimes silence is golden. Anybody?
I'll jump in on that real quick. That's something that also kind of comes with age. I think, at least for me, it did. When I was younger, I couldn't stand the silence, for any reason. And it takes a little while before you can get comfortable enough with yourself to be able to accept that and just say, not everything has to be expressed. Not every fight has to be won. Not every battle has to be fought. At some point you can just sort of take a step back, handle things yourself, and take advantage of that peace and quiet, that silence, and you can turn it on its ear and make it a positive thing. So,
yeah, like Bane said in Batman, you merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it.
I was born in this. Yeah, I'll echo what Rory said, man. I had some really good advice. You guys know that I'm in the onset of my second go around at marriage, right? So we had, godly counsel and all that. And one bit of advice sticks to me, and it's, if one person wins, everybody loses, right?
Ooh.
If one person wins, everybody loses. And that's to say, like, preference ain't got to be the one that takes the day, right? And so I use that a lot lately. And I'm just like, okay, I know I always want to say something, but I don't. But I don't. Like, I've always got, a bullet to throw back. I've always got that, but I don't. Because of that, because it is golden, man. There's value in it. And sometimes the silence, that pause, that's where it's at, right? That pause allows for even the person you might be debating with to come to a realization, right? That pause, that silence allows them to be like, okay, if they're not comfortable with it, cool. I can grab a pillow and lay down in silence. I'm golden.
Copy that. All right. Anybody else? We got 5 more minutes or so, man. Anything else? Any other thoughts?
Can I go a totally different way, you?
Of course.
Sorry. We've been talking about, the emotional cost, right? And I can't leave us on here's the problem we've been talking about, right? Because mental health is very near to my heart. Okay. I've had multiple brushes with suicide. I've been dealt with depression. And so let me throw this out for all of the men out there who are paying that silence tax, who are sitting there quietly, just grinding away and just letting it eat at their soul. You need 30 minutes a day on a hobby. It is an immediate 40% improvement in your mental and emotional outlook. Men with actual hobbies that include their hands, physical hobbies, woodworking, gardening, anything that includes their hands, actually working with their hands. It's an immediate 40% increase neurologically in your emotional and mental outlook. 30 minutes a day. It will change your life. It will keep you from biting that bullet. It will keep you from giving up on everything else. It is a proven fact. A hobby, 30 minutes a day.
Thank you, sir. That's good.
I received that.
Now I see why I'm happiest in my garden sometimes. I don't have enough time to get out there lately. White Queen's been doing all the work. I get out there, I'm just like serene, man. I feel like I hear God. I feel like I feel God. Fruits and vegetables and God. It's okay.
It's legit, bro.
I think I understand why that. Okay, man, that's good, man. You need to get that stat on the screen next week, man. I like that, man. That's good stuff. All right. Got about 4 minutes or so, man. Anybody else, man?
I'd say that
This is good,
silence in this day and age, being good with the silence, being good with quietness is a strategic powerhouse. Whether you're talking to someone, whether you're allowing yourself to think, turn off that phone and just having silence. Some of us veterans have mad tinnitus, so you at least have a ringing in there. But but it's aside from the ringing, I can still think. And then when you're talking to someone, you finish your point, just have silence. You'd be amazed at how much more information comes out.
Oh, that's true, man. That's true. Wow. Well, anybody else? I'm gonna take the last couple of minutes.
I interrupted RL earlier, so sorry about that, RL.
Oh, I'm sorry. RL, want to jump in real quick, brother? Go ahead, RL.
Yeah, I was on both sides of the silence versus I pretty much agree with everyone is saying here. It's about embracing the silence, and everything doesn't require a response. A lot of times you just be quiet. You can diffuse a lot of situations just by not saying anything, and that's when the spirit of offense gets in there, and now you're fighting just to be heard, or now I'm retaliating. You said something, so now I got to say something back, or you're not going to get the last word. And sometimes it's good just to be quiet. And then the other side, that's me in the world. I can do that easily. At home, I think I'm a little too quiet. And the reason I say that is my son kind of checked me today, this morning going to school. He doesn't know that he did it. But my wife said something, and I didn't respond right away. But I was yawning on my drive to work, and it came out. And she was like, "Did you hear me?" And then he goes, "Oh, Dad is a cool guy. He don't really care about much." So hearing that, it made me stop and pause. And I want to make sure that I'm sending the right message. I want him to know that I may be quiet, maybe because I don't have anything to input at that time, but it's not that I don't care about anything. And so sometimes you need to express yourself. You need to say certain things. You need to show emotion, especially to your loved ones, and let them know what's going on in your head, because you don't want that silence to send the wrong message.
Thank you, sir. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to say this to all of you guys. I've heard all your stories. I know a whole lot about you, and you guys know a whole lot about me, and that's how it's supposed to be, right? Did I rhyme? Go ahead, Don King. But I just want to say that, I'm grateful for you guys. I'm glad you guys didn't take the route that you could have taken. I'm really grateful that you're here. I'm going to end it on that note, because I feel something starting to rise up emotionally. So I'm just saying, I'm glad you guys are here. I'm grateful that I know you, that we're friends and we're family now, and you are part of this incredible journey that we're on together. I love you guys. Thanks for watching the Men's Roundtable Series podcast. These guys are husbands, fathers, brothers, and sons just like you, and we're doing this for real.